Recorded now. And hey, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Candy Corn Cinema. I'm joined today by one of our previous special guests, Mr. Chris Doman, who, as far as I know, he's the one who picked these two movies, right, Chris?
More or less. I pitched the idea to Engel and, for you two to talk about, but then, thanks to a scheduling conflict, he had to step aside. And I was like, well, then I guess I'll hop in.
Since it was your idea.
I'll take credit for it. Sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So we usually start off with the oldest movie here. So why did you think, first off, let's talk about why did you think these are good as a pair?
I thought these were good as a pair because when you think of James Bond, I feel like this is one of the first films that people tend to think of. Some people might say GoldenEye or Casino Royale, but I'm always inclined to think of Goldfinger as the quote-unquote gold standard, to which the franchise has been held up to. Yeah, sure, is it my personal favorite? No, that's more From Russia with Love, but when I think of movies or TV shows that, pay homage or parody or even spoof the James Bond franchise, Goldfinger is usually the one that they tend to go after. It's the one that set the template for not just its own franchise, but for all the parody spoof stuff that came as a result of it. It's that much of a cultural icon.
Yeah. And then Cody Banks, it's pretty much it's kind of a spoof. Like, that's the thing, is it works on its own level, and we'll get to that eventually. But yeah, let's start with the classic here, James Bond, Goldfinger. So it's the third James Bond movie that was released, and like you were saying, it is the one that starts off this kind of almost campy tone. Like, it does it so well, and the first frame of this movie is James Bond rising out of the water with a seagull on his head. And I was like Sean Connery can make that a lot more suave than, say, maybe what George Lazenby can do in a clown costume, right?
Roger Moore.
Moore. Shit, I knew I was gonna fuck it up once or twice in this. Yeah, I'll see how many times I do it in this one. Moore. Yes.
It's all good. I'm more than happy to quote unquote help correct. Now it's funny that we're mentioning Lazenby there, because after I rewatched both the films and I started to think about it, I'm like, this almost feels more like Majesty's Secret Service, but Goldfinger is still a great talking point to compare these films to. But yeah, unofficially speaking, guys, you want a really interesting double feature? Pair Cody Banks with Majesty's Secret Service. You almost have the exact same story, but a very different outcome.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Shippers beware on that one.
So this gives us basically the cold open, the Bond cold open that becomes kind of standard for even spy movies just in general, right? Like, this has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. It's just about Bond has to do a mission, and it just proves that he is capable and he is able to do things. And I think it's a very good showcase for Sean Connery.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's the perfected version of what they started doing in From Russia with Love. With you had the opening scene where James Bond was killed, but you have this version, or you have this cold open that's literally it's a 5-minute short film, and it is capped with literally everything that makes Bond Bond. He's that cocky, suave, knows how to do his job badass who can always come up with a great one-liner. I mean, because after he throws the whatever electric appliance in the tub, when the dude's thrown in there, just have that great line of
space heater, yeah,
positively shocking. And it's perfect because Connery can pull it off like a pro.
Yeah, Connery is so great as James Bond. It's just it's clear why he's usually people's number one. Is up until basically Daniel Craig revives it for the modern day people. The new generation seems to be stuck on him, but it's hard to contend with Sean Connery's. So right after that, we go to Miami. They send him to Miami. So it's kind of connected. It's not connected, but it's kind of connected. So after his mission, he gets sent to Miami, basically to recoup, but to spy on a international gold. What is it? What should we call him?
So Yeah, so Auric Goldfinger, our title character, he's a legitimate dealer supplier in gold, and he's also a legitimate jewelry person. That's his legitimate front. But of course, as anyone with a brain can figure out, he's clearly a maniacal crime boss with some sort of devilish intent. What is it? Who knows? But we'll find out throughout the film. And actually, when we get to it, Loki is actually one of the greatest plans in a Bond
It's
film.
a great plan.
But yeah, so we have that character, and he's
we're introduced to him very, very interestingly. He's a gambler. We know that he's a gambler, and he only likes to win. That's what we're introduced, and we're also introduced to James Bond not liking to follow orders and not liking to do what he's actually supposed to do, because he's not supposed to interact with Goldfinger at all. He's only supposed to observe and watch. But he can't help himself when he sees a pretty lady, so he approaches the pretty lady and he interjects himself within Goldfinger's spectrum, which causes this woman that he ends up sleeping with to be covered in gold paint and suffocated to death.
And it's actually kind of interesting because like the whole thing with Jill Masterson, it's so fascinating to see that Goldfinger is so I'm not going to necessarily say the word pathetic, but he's so set on how he wants to look in a public view that he will straight up hire just anyone, in this case being Jill, to read his opponent's cards in a game of gin rummy.
Yeah.
And cheat. That's Goldfinger style. He likes to cheat as long as he can win. That's his MO, And yeah, honestly, talk about another just iconic moment from the franchise itself. Seeing Jill just laid out on the bed, covered in gold, courtesy of Oddjob, who I'll gush over him in a second.
Yeah, we'll talk about Oddjob. But we also we skipped over the opening, the title sequence. We can't forget to talk about, because I think it happens in between the Miami going to Miami, and it's this beautiful, and it works so well, this kind of almost at points abstract projection of parts of the movie on a gold painted body who was actually, she was the stewardess that Bond slaps away, I do believe. The men are talking, the men talking scene. I do believe it's her. Dink, yeah. And then that's her, that's gold painted for the projection of the film. But it's a great song, the Goldfinger song, the theme.
See, from a song perspective, I absolutely agree. I do think the lyrics are great. And Shirley Bassey, she gets a little bit of flack from some Bond fans, and a little rightfully so, because her style of vibrato can be a little
it's strange,
say overbearing.
Yeah.
But I do think it works for the song overall.
Yeah, I think it fits with gold. Like, it feels like somebody
absolutely
is hitting a bar of gold. Like, that's what it feels like that high pitched ting of it. Like, you're smacking like really like metal together and stuff. Like, I think it works. Yeah, it definitely works well. But
absolutely.
So we get a nice golf sequence next. Well, M calls Bond in first. Yeah, we can't forget this, because he does. We get the first kind of. So the director of this movie ended up directing a couple more Bond films, and his name, Guy Hamilton, and he was the one who went to Desmond Harrington, right?
Desmond Llewellyn.
Llewellyn, yes. And he wanted Q to be more fun and more kind of jokey and more campy, and that's what kind of we get this extended sequence of just a bunch of different things in the Q branch, and a not quite working flak ballistic vest, and we get the DB5. We get the introduction to the DB5. Oh my God. And the walk around with all of its different self-defense mechanisms that surely will come into play later. I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, and that's the beautiful thing about all the Q branch scenes in these movies. Like, everything that we see will come back in an awesome way. And speaking of the whole briefing segment, I have to give credit to the fact that this is one of the few times where I'm still kind of genuinely upset that the franchise never allowed Bond and Moneypenny to really be a thing, because
they're so good.
Crap, the chemistry is just so unreal between these two. Like, yeah, it's great in Dr. No. From Russia with Love, they have a great sequence, but this is where I'm like,
if Sean Connery stayed on as Bond, probably through like a 5 or 6 movie thing, I'm probably guessing that's where they would have ended. If they wanted to end Bond happily, or like retire Bond, they would have retired him with Moneypenny if he would have stayed on, I think. But when they started switching Bonds, it's like, we can kind of do whatever we want whenever we want now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what's your favorite? What's your favorite Q thing? Like, it doesn't even have to be from Goldfinger. I just want to know, because we're in the Q branch right now. So what's off the top of your head? Because there's so many of them.
Oh my god, yeah, that is the problem. There's so many of them. I mean, yeah, obviously the Aston Martin from this movie comes to mind, because I still want that car.
It's
I
classic.
want that damn car. But another one, or heck, the car from Spy Who Loved Me also comes to mind. But I think what has always stuck with me, even from when I was a kid, is the exploding pen from Goldeneye.
Yeah. That's a great choice.
What about yours?
Oh man, it's got to be the DB5. The DB5 is one of the. It's just. The car is one of the most beautiful things ever created, and then to put like a bunch of spy gadgets in it, like if we're talking the James Bond DB5, then yes, hands down, like I'll take that. Hands down.
Machine guns, radar, ejector
oil
seat,
slick, the ejector seat's so good, But so we go into the golf scene after this. It's an extended golf scene, where like I was like, okay, James Bond is English. This is made for an English audience still. Like, this is the 3rd movie in the franchise. It's getting big, but it's still made by English people, pretty much for English people. And it's a good 15-20 minute, but it's fun. Like, it's a tit for tat between Goldfinger and Bond.
I was about to say, so yeah, funny enough, they're playing golf, but realistically, we all know they're playing chess.
Yes.
It's a total chess match, like,
with the switching of the balls
Bond, and exactly. Bond picking up the actual Schlesinger 1 is, that's his knight in front of the king for check. It's one of those things where I'm like, this is the kind of filmmaking that makes so much more sense when you stop to think about it. Even if at first it seems like it's coming off a little contrived, maybe a little confusing even. But once you see the whole picture fall into place, everything clicks.
Yeah, and it's more of Bond being a real spy. Like he is face-to-face meeting with his target, which is probably not the best thing for a spy, but like secret agent. Yes, like he is doing what he needs. He is good at his job. Like this is before he starts. Like, I feel like sometimes in the later James Bond, it's more that the gadgets and everything else, and Bond is more bumbling through some of his adventures, I find, but
kind
of. But so this is our odd job introduction. We get introduced to Odd Job and properly introduced at the end of the golf scene with the bowler hat of doom. So you wanted to talk about Odd Job. Give me what you want.
Well, never mind cheapest character on GoldenEye for the N64. But,
no slaps. No slaps.
But, like, talk about doing so much and saying so much without giving the guy even one line of dialogue.
Notice that this time.
Like, you can tell his entire personality. You can tell about his upbringing. You know this character just from how he acts. That's like, and seriously, nothing but serious props to
Harold Sakata.
Harold Sakata. Yep, there we go. Thank you.
I got one.
and everything that he was able to bring to the film through just physical performance.
Yeah, it was very almost vaudeville, right? Like it's very like he's a great, like you said, physical performer, and that's because he's a wrestler. And I made note of that especially with at the end with their Bond and his fight scene. Like it's for the time, for the 60s, it's one of the best. Like it's still one of the best fight scenes, but it's one of the best fight scenes for the 60s. It doesn't look like people are just ragdolled and just throwing themselves around at wild punches and like some like choreography was not important to movies for a long time. Probably I'd say probably until the 90s.
Thanks Star Wars for that important thing.
Well, I mean, I would even say to like Matrix, if we're being honest, like fight choreography, right? Like for Hollywood fight choreography, the Matrix is like kind of the turning point. Until then, it's still pretty much Indiana Jones. That kind of still big it's good, like it's really good, but it's still theatrical. There's lots of thwaps and like really big windups and stuff. And Matrix, I felt like went more towards the reality, and that's what was great about this one. But the end fight with Bond and Sakata is that since he's a wrestler, he can bring that kind of real kind of violence to their fight. And he got burned pretty bad apparently with the hat, and he held on. He wanted to do it. He just held on. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, no, they were not messing around when they actually filmed this. He was like, he actually did get injured, which, props to him. It's one of those things where you hear about it and you're like, it's one thing when an accident happens, but the actor can still commit to the performance. Like, it's why I give Margaret Hamilton all the credit in the world for getting basically burned alive on the set of The Wizard of Oz and still finishing the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that last week. It was nuts. Yeah, and along with the makeup too. Like the makeup was toxic as well. It's like, okay, well, and the fact that she was hated for the rest of her life because everybody thought she was evil. It's like, oh man, like, I mean, great performance, but now everybody thinks I'm bad. But back to Goldfinger. So after we end of the golf course here, where does Bond end up? I'm trying to remember here, Chris.
Bond winds up starting to continue to follow, or he starts to follow.
Oh, that's right. This is where we're introduced
all the way to Switzerland.
Yes. Yeah.
So, of course, it's a Bond film when we're going to all kinds of crazy locales, and there's something about the Swiss Alps that just makes me go, I want to do two things while I'm here. I want to go drive around like a maniac, and I want to stand in the field, twirl my arms, and sing.
So, and this is where we're introduced to Tilly's sister. Her
Jill's sister.
Jill's
Tilly.
sister Tilly. There we go. Yeah, and she isn't trying to assassinate Bond the first time, even though she's a real bad shot, as she says later. If she wasn't aiming for Bond, and she was really aiming for Goldfinger, but Bond basically what does he do? He attacks her car with his DB5, right? He slices her up, and somehow she's like, "Oh wow, I don't know how you did that." she's completely
she can clearly tell he did something to mess her car up, but she's like, well, you messed my car up, so thanks.
And then Bond leaves her on the side of the highway at a gas station.
She elects to stay because she's like, if I stick around with you, you're probably not going to take me to Goldfinger, and I want to blow his brains out. So, I'm just going to stay here and wait for these new tires to come in my car so I can do the job myself.
Yeah.
Even though if maybe she had just, said that from the get-go, maybe it could have led to a more interesting dynamic. But while I do understand how some critics may have said that, like, her character is kind of a waste, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree, but I get it. It is one of those things where I'm glad we got the character, though I do admit maybe we could have had just a little more. I
will admit a couple of the women got a little samey for me in this movie. Like, they felt a little like the Bond girls felt a little the same. I kind of got a little confused. I was like, wait, I thought somebody was just dead. It's like, okay, so it's her sister. And then when Pussy Galore shows up later, I was like, okay, wait, which one? I thought Pussy Galore already showed up, and it's like, oh no, this is her. We know this is her definitely now, right? But it's just so Bond then goes to his Goldfinger's factory, and he sees. This is the part where it kind of slows down for me a little bit, right? Because he is doing more spy work, but it's just kind of like, oh, he goes and he sees the physicist, and he knows that there's a physicist there, right? Feels like something that could have been handled in would have been handled later in the franchise in like montage or like quick clipped, right? Like kind of like a quick view of Bond doing kind of spy things. Whereas I kind of feel like it slows it down a little bit until Tilly shows back up, of course, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Oddjob kills Tilly.
Which
is good.
God.
That's a good scene.
Again, a great way to sell our villain.
Yeah.
An absolutely great way to sell Oddjob as the villain, as a great henchman. Like, this is a guy who gets shit done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he will just kill you on a whim.
Yeah.
And then they capture Bond, and that's
when he gets on the jet, right?
Yeah. No.
Oh, no, I'm missing. Oh, no.
You're missing probably
That's
the most
right.
parody
That's
scene
right.
in this movie.
Or the most inspired thing in this movie, right? Like this is the thing. Yes, this is the thing that like pretty much every like evil villain on any cartoon has done to any hero. It's in everything.
You know, where you got him on a slab of gold, and he's Bond's trying to talk his way out of it, and somehow he actually does, which is crazy. But of course, the laser's going off, and it's going slowly to split him right up the gonads. Which I remember a video from Todd in the Shadows where he was like, "No, not James Bond's nuts. He needs those. He uses those more than I probably use my thumbs."
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's when he knew that it was serious. Like oh no, it's like he could have like put my feet together and I could have been cut in half from there, but nope.
Nope.
Yeah,
go straight for the money pennies, as it were. But and of course we have that iconic line. Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
That's great.
And actually, fun thing about this movie that not a lot of people have mentioned. So Gert Frobe is officially credited as Goldfinger. That's not his voice.
That sounded a little different. Who is it?
I knew this about a year ago, and I totally forgot.
You totally forgot. No, it's not good.
But if you do want to hear what Gert Frobe actually does sound like, you can watch a movie that's based on another Ian Fleming book called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, because he's the king of Bulgaria in that movie.
I didn't know that was based on an Ian Fleming book. Oh wow,
it is. Yes. Wow. So Roald Dahl, the ever wonderful children's author, decided to do his friend Ian Fleming a favor by writing the screenplay. So
wow, that's crazy.
But yeah, no. So yeah, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Like you said, we've seen that done in every movie. Like I'm kind of shocked that Cody Banks didn't do an exact version of that scene.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if I can't remember if they did it in the second movie, but it's in London, so I doubt it.
I've kind of avoided the second movie, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I saw it once or twice when it came out, but yeah, I haven't. Not at any time recently. But okay, so now again, I was gonna say now we get onto the plane. This is when Bond is placed on the plane, and we meet Pussy Galore. Bond must be dreaming. It's like that's the thing. It's like they knew the name. Like they made the joke right after they introduced her. So it's like I get it. It's yeah. So what are your thoughts on Miss Galore and her flying circus, Chris?
I think she's great. She's honestly one of the better examples of that henchwoman who is turned later on in the film. Spoiler alert, because again, that's what the point of this podcast is, to spoil the living hell out of films. And obviously you had other examples like Mayday from View to a Kill, but or even oh crap, it's not what's her face from Octopussy. But point being, she is one of the better Bond women who doesn't just immedially fall for Bond. Yeah. Like Bond really has to lay on the charm just to have
charm.
Shot at.
Charm.
We'll get there in a minute.
Yeah.
But she's definitely an icon unto herself. Like like a lot of the strong Bond women were, and it's really awesome that pretty much all the pilots in this movie are women.
Yep, it's cool.
So
I really like the twist that like the flying circus is these jets, right? These women that fly jets, and they're really great at what they do, and they're great looking, and they don't care, right? Like that's the best thing. It's one of the great things about this whole thing. So when they get to Kentucky, Bond goes through the tunnels in Goldfinger's estate and basically ends up peering through into a meeting with all these bad gangster stereotypes in America. And I love it. All the Chicago gangsters, the New York gangsters just being mad at each other.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the explanation of Goldfinger's massive plan, which is a great plan.
Here where we get, seriously, one of the best plans in any Bond film. I mean, literally setting off a nuclear bomb in Fort Knox, thereby radiating America's entire gold supply for the better part of 50 plus years. 58 to be precise, Mr. Bond. It's brilliant, because then of course who has a shit ton of gold himself? Goldfinger. So what does that mean? All of his gold just raises in value, and seeing Bond figure that out, like, without too much prompting from Goldfinger, that proves just how ingenious Goldfinger's plan actually was.
Yeah, and
seriously,
Goldfinger's reaction. I love Goldfinger's reaction because he's like he's teasing Bond because he wants Bond to figure it's almost like they're playing a game of gin rummy, right? Like he wants to win. He definitely still wants to win, but he wants a good fight out of Bond, and it makes for great cinema.
And it's great tension between these two characters. I mean, this whole entire film, they're just in a dance with each other. Like, and that's the one of the things I really appreciate about Goldfinger as an entry in the Bond series, because it is a quote unquote standalone film. Mm-hmm. There's no references to Spectre. There's no number one sitting around the corner. There's no Largo. There's no Blofeld or anything like that. It's just Bond trying to take out this one madman with a brilliant plan. Mm-hmm. So, and it's one of those things where I'm just like, you smart, smug son of a bitch, you.
So basically, Bond basically gets dragged into Fort Knox into the plan, right? So he gets Goldfinger finds him, and he is taken into the building, and he's gonna die in the bomb blast. But what Goldfinger doesn't know.
And what Goldfinger doesn't know is that the day beforehand, he did manage to talk his way out of one of Goldfinger's right hand women. Now, I do understand how, especially in the modern context, the scene doesn't play as well as it did in 1964. It does play pretty creepy. Yeah. Pretty forceful. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't, because I do believe there was in one of the drafts of the script that Pussy Galore was supposed to be a straight-up lesbian. Kind of like Rosa Klebb in From Russia with Love. Okay. But for one reason or another, they just never committed to it, which, fine, fair enough. I mean, at the very least, you could have just said she was bisexual. Yeah. That would have worked. But, and
it's very of the times. Like, honestly, all I could think of when I was watching it is like, yes, this doesn't hold up today, but like unfortunately, I know what they're getting.
This could have been worse.
Yeah, and I know what they're getting at, right? Like, it's not like the thought of the day was, right, like you man, like, not forced, but pressured themselves upon a woman, and the woman went, oh, okay, they care about me, right? That was the thought. But it's the wrong thought, but that was the thought. So I understand where it was coming from in the movie. I don't think it holds up at all, but I understand where it came from. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and in this case being, it's like, Bond's just trying to illustrate his point of, listen, you do this is going to really screw over a lot of people, and you don't want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bond's role is to be a gigolo. Like, I mean, let's be clear. Like, that's the reason they send him into most of these missions. Like, it's not to kill people. It's to sleep with women and get into places. Like,
Well, it is supposed to be kind of a bit of both. But,
yeah.
and
In the
it
movies,
actually
they
reminds
made him
me
into
it
that.
reminds me of one of the Felix Leiter one-liners that he gives throughout the film. Because he's, sitting with his buddy in the car, and they're like, "Well, I got 10-1 saying it's either a drink or a dame that is holding them up." It's like,
Yeah.
well, you just summed up James. James is like almost his entire character. That one line.
Yeah, that was Felix. Felix is great in this movie. I love Felix in this movie.
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely he's not as solid as he was in Dr. No, at least in my opinion.
Well,
but
they don't give him
still
too much.
Yeah, but he's still one of the better early era Bonds, and he in my opinion he would get better as the films go on, especially in the Dalton era, which oh god, License to Kill, what they do to that poor man, I'm like, oh, it hurts my soul. And Jeffrey Wright, please do a kick-ass job in No Time to Die, I'm begging you.
give us a Felix spin-off, please, with Jeffrey Wright. That would be sweet.
Dear God, I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So his sarin gas, he was gonna knock people out with nerve gas, but it was really to kill everybody around Fort Knox. And so Pussy Galore has been turned, and she puts just a random non-lethal gas. Yeah. They say they don't mention it specifically, but they just replaced it with something non-lethal. And so everybody, all the army moves in on Goldfinger's troops and force them deep into the vault and force into effect the fight that we mentioned a little earlier. That I guess we'll get into now. This great fight between Oddjob and James Bond.
Like, you got the climax going on. There's guns blazing everywhere. That's cool. But I'm watching this entire climax for one thing and for one thing only: Oddjob versus Bond. Like, for me, the only fight that in this entire franchise, or at least in this era of the franchise, that comes close to it is Red Grant versus Bond in From Russia with Love. Like, this is Bond facing his equal. Yeah. In terms of skill, in terms of combat, in terms of all-around badassery, because Oddjob can take a hit. He can take a huge hit.
He's smart. He's not just a thug, right? Like, he knows he understands what he's doing in a fight, and he gets advantage of James quite a few times, and it's basically, it is a physical chess match. We were talking about the chess match on the golf course. This one is the one with their fists and his big ass barrel chest. So,
and you want to know the thing I actually really appreciate about the sequence? There's no score.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just the sounds.
It's just these two fighting, and there's something, in my opinion, just so pure about that.
Especially in a movie, and especially in a series that's known for like these big bombastic scores and underscoring like these moments with crazy brass and stuff.
And literally everything else going on in this climax, there's music everywhere, but this is the one spot where it cuts out, and we just have these two badasses going for it. And and it only ends it ends like every other fitting James Bond fight ending, with James throws the hat, it lands in between the bars, Oddjob knocks him down on the ground again. But before Oddjob can finish grabbing the hat, here we have that awesome practical effect that got Harold injured. Thank God didn't kill him, but
it's crazy to think like the real stunts that went on in old Hollywood. When you grow up thinking it's like, oh, the stunts have safety precautions and stuff like that, CGI and stuff like that, and you watch old movies and you start to realize it's like, no, that person's actually on fire and stuff like that. It's pretty insane what people go through for the art that we watch, and it's crazy.
But here's the blessing of that, is that because they went through that crap now, or that crap then, we now made sure that we have safety nets to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yes.
Because, let's say on the set of No Time to Die, an explosion went off. Oh, wait a minute.
Did it happen? Oh no! Oh jeez!
Yeah.
Oh jeez! Oh, that's right, Craig.
Injured.
Wasn't Craig injured for a little bit, and they had to pause production, or was that just a stunt for him?
Set of Oh yeah. Oh, you're right. He did get injured.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Never mind. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess this is just this is like the one franchise that's kind of cursed in that
Yeah,
department.
but I noticed, especially with this fight scene and everything we talked about a little earlier, but there are very few movies that I think are very modern, no matter when they were made. Like, this is one of them. Like, this looks like there are techniques used in this that why didn't other movies for 40 years use them, right? Like, there's things that you see just nowadays as commonplace that were used in like this movie, and you can go back like Citizen Kane, Star Wars, stuff like that. Things, the way things are filmed and the way things are shot, it looks like a modern movie at points in this, and it looks like it could have been filmed if they filmed on film yesterday.
Yeah. And of course, I have to give just a tremendous props to the practical effects team on this film. Even though not all of them hold up, like Goldfinger going out the window, but
yeah, the rudimentary green screen was it's decent for 19 to the 60s. For the 60s, it's great.
Especially during the car chases, like it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it still holds up. It's a huge improvement from Dr. No. Like. Sure, the car chase with the 3 blind mice, it's not that great. I love the movie, but it's not that great. Whereas here, Bond going after or having that little cat and mouse game with Tilly on the highway in Switzerland.
That was really good.
That was really good. And heck, Bond at the Switzerland factory in that big long car chase there, damn, that was some good stuff. So... yeah, it's come a long way than I think anyone realizes.
Yes.
It's come a longer way than anyone realizes, even from, being now 56 years ago.
Yeah. And
gotta think about that.
I love looking at it, especially because we do like a lot of like movies from like 20 or 30, 40 years ago that like seeing the way the effects have improved, or even in the case of Cody Banks, even not improved in certain scenes, but we'll get to that one eventually. So we think everything's done, but Goldfinger is still around, and he's got one more ace up his sleeve, one more plan. He disguises himself as a U.S. Army general and hijacks a plane because of course, right? and James Bond warns him, like he warned Pussy Galore earlier, that he probably shouldn't shoot on the plane, otherwise he's gonna die. And Goldfinger can't listen because he's got to win. He's got to do it. So he shoots and he gets sucked out the plane, like Odd Job. That was apparently Odd Job's original death in the book.
Yep,
was out of the plane. So they kind of repurposed that for Goldfinger, and I think that's better. I think that's a better ending because I wouldn't want to get rid of the fight we had with Odd Job.
Exactly, and it does lead to another classic line, for at least in my opinion. Wait, what happened? Where's Goldfinger? He's playing his golden hop. It's like, James, never change. And so of course then they crash, and before they can be rescued, James is like, well, let's have one more round before we get out of here.
Having fun on a deserted island. So that brings us to the end of Goldfinger there, and I guess that's straight into. I used to love this. I remember I watched this movie so many times growing up, but because I had like the biggest crush on Hilary Duff growing up, like so much. So like I rewatched this movie on repeat, man. I don't know. Again, like you guys know me, I am very, very biased. I can't not love this movie. This movie is just so much fun.
3 times. I saw this movie 3 times in the theater.
Nice.
No regrets. And funny, before Jurassic Park or before Jurassic World, this was the movie I saw the most in the theaters.
Wow.
Because then I saw that 3 times in theaters, and then I saw Force Awakens 7 times. So that kind of broke the record. But there was something about this movie that really appealed to me as a kid when it came out in 2003. Because of course, I watched Lizzie McGuire's show, so I wanted to see it for her. I liked Malcolm in the Middle, so I saw it for him. And I was already getting into James Bond by this point.
Same here.
I didn't see Die Another Day. partially because my dad said it wasn't very good, so I took his word for it. But I was watching GoldenEye whenever it was on TV, or I'd watched one of the classic Bonds. Like I'd seen pretty much over half of the films by this point in that franchise. So this movie was perfect for me because I love spy movies, and even the ones that are clearly spoof or pay homage.
Yeah.
And this one was a fun little kid's adventure, And funny enough, so in 2013, I was at a show in St. Paul. In college, my roommate was in a band called Irie, and they opened up for a band called Kingsfoil. And who happened to be their drummer? None other than
Frankie Muniz. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah.
And so, because I was friends with the people at the venue, and I was, like I said, my roommate was the opening act. I got to just hang out, and seriously, I talked with Frankie for like, an hour.
Yeah, he always
had to hop in the tour van.
He always seemed like a cool dude. Like he always seemed like pretty down to earth. He was one of my favorite. Like when I was growing up, he was growing up too in the industry. So it was easy to like latch onto him as kind of like someone to be in a movie. Like that's my kind of like what's the word I'm looking for,
movie
Chris?
Star.
Yeah, no, well, what's the word that a protagonist you're supposed to be able to be in the movie. Like there's some film term for like seeing yourself in the movie in it, and I'm not gonna be able to think of it. God damn it. Anyway, he was that, right? Like he was in a bunch of movies, and it was easy to see myself in that movie because of him. And so this movie, it's great because it starts.
Avatar.
Yeah, that works. That's perfect. Yeah, Avatar works perfectly. So we get a nice actually start, kind of like a James Bond kind of scene where Frankie Muniz shows what he's made of. Like we get a nice downhill skateboarding scene where he saves a precocious little kid who can't keep his hands to himself, and sends himself flying down a road.
Which it's like, on the one hand, I do appreciate the scene because the references to Bullet are amazing. Yep. You can tell that the writer Zach Stentz just really loved that movie, and I had him on Who Cares Anyway last year for about a half hour, and before we went live, I did talk to him a little bit about the film, and Bullet was one of the films he referenced for that opening sequence.
Wow,
I'm like, that's
awesome. That's very clear now that you mention it.
And it makes perfect sense because like you want to combine a few different elements when you're trying to pay homage to that sort of 60s era of spy film. And Frankie Muniz in this film, even though we're supposed to see him as sort of that Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan kind of character, he winds up portraying it more like Steve McQueen.
Yeah. Well, and he is the James Bond without the ladies material. Like he is the anti ladies James Bond. Like he has no game. That's the entire point of the movie, is that he's supposed to have the game, and he said he was good with girls, but he's a kid. He lied about being good with girls. That's what they do. So he gets into trouble for that.
Your ass 20 ways from Sunday, but if you're a father to a 15-year-old daughter, she's totally safe. Like he will not talk to her without messing up. It's perfect.
So we get quickly introduced to the villains of the film right after this too, and I completely forgot. I haven't seen this movie in a few years. I forgot Ian McShane was like the main bad guy. Holy shit, perfect. He's so great. Ian McShane's great in everything. I love Ian McShane in everything, but he's eating the scenery. He's like, oh, my grandkids are gonna love this movie.
Ian McShane is to this movie what Tim Curry is to 1993's Three Musketeers. Like he is. There is no scenery left to chew. He has eaten all of it, but then somehow he still makes room for the greatest henchman who ever lived, that being the odd job of this film.
He's the star of this podcast because like he was on The Mummy. I'm pretty sure he was in a movie or another movie that we did, but like Arnold Vosloo, man, like Arnold Vosloo, he is again, they love to chew scenery. That scenery had teeth marks all over it. This movie, I love just the it's so angry, but it's not scary, right? Because it's a kids movie, so it's like he knows how to ride the line about being kind of intimidating, but also like a joke. Like he's a complete and total joke, but like he can kind of give off that presence that he needs, and it's a great performance.
Absolutely. I mean, like, especially with their little interplay between each other, it's like you can tell, like they're not playing this as boss and henchman. They're playing this as like boyfriend. It's perfect.
Oh man! And then we get quickly introduced to the CIA as well. Keith David as the head of the CIA. Keith David in anything Keith David is in. He is like, just the presence of him. Like, and every director seems to understand, if you hire Keith David, you're hiring Keith David. You let him do his Keith David thing on set, because every movie he is just, in the best way possible, himself, right? Like, it's just this great gravitas, but he's
I describe him as Samuel L. Jackson with class.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. Yes. Yeah. I love it. And then Angie Harmon. Oh my God! How was I able to watch this movie as a child? Why was I allowed to watch this movie as a child? That's the way Angie Harmon looked. Holy shit! Hi, Ian.
If I ever have the chance to meet her, I can ever get that wish granted for myself, I will just say,
make a wish.
I had a crush on you as a child.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Yeah. And she's great. Like, and she knows she's playing it up, right? Like, and this is the thing, is like everybody in this movie knows exactly what type of movie they're in, which is why I think it works so well, because they're all playing up the ham factor, the irony of this entire thing.
I mean, cripes. Daryl Hammond as our Q. Oh my God!
I was getting to him. He might be my favorite. He might be my favorite of the movie.
He's probably my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah.
It's just, but you and I both know what would have made this role absolutely better is if he did it as Sean Connery. Come on. Oh yes, you see, this is the dope stuff.
Oh my God! Because was that after? Oh man, what was that? You're the Man Now, Dog. When was that movie released? That was like late '90s, right? Finding Forrester.
Yes.
Yeah, because that
2000.
That joke would have landed then. Sean Connery being like this, kind of trying to be this hip dude. That joke would have totally landed.
Dog.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, Daryl Hammond, I love. we get the X-ray specs, right? It's like low grade X-ray specs, right? And he just stares at Ronica, and it's just like, what is this movie? This is a kids movie.
Like, I mean, yeah, it is actually pretty. Terrible.
It's made for both. Like, it goes over your head. I never noticed that. Until now.
Exactly. Like, I didn't get that as a kid, and I get it as an adult. And sure, on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, this is childish, but on the other hand, I'm like, but it actually is also like it's part of the joke, because hell, we did this in a Bond film.
Yep.
Like, Bond had that moment in Octopussy where he had an extra microscopic lens or something that he could do that with, and what does he look at? Oh, woman's chest, and it's like, oh, James, don't ever change. And plus, here's the other difference. Cody's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
He can get away with this a little more easily.
Yeah, he's not naive. Yeah, he's naive, and he's growing. He's still growing. So speaking of that, he goes. His mission then becomes, as we hinted earlier, to become
Woo Hilary Duff.
Woo Hilary Duff, the daughter of a scientist that's working for the bad guys who are creating nanobots.
I was gonna say, and let's talk about like what is nowadays the actual best part of this movie, because I genuinely want there to be nanobot technology.
It was the coolest shit. I remember it, and this is what I think of when I think of like nanites and nanobots. Is like oh man, they could clean up the ocean from oil and stuff. Like anything from that is from this movie. Like I love this idea of, and the scientist says like, oh, I'm totally creating this for like good, and these weird people with scars and all white suits and lots of glass and wait, what, you want to kill people with my stuff? What? It's like, oh, poor naive scientist.
Because of course that's how the story has to go. And again, that's just, having fun with the satire. That's having fun with the audience, with the past of what came before. But I mean, yeah, can you imagine that kind of technology as being put to good use in real life? People, okay, seriously, I'm gonna rant on this for just like 30 seconds. Sorry, Kyle, I'm really gonna do this.
Go for it.
Can we please start petitions to have nanobite technology that actually does this? Please. We need this for our oceans. We need this for our landfills. Let's fucking make it happen.
There's got to be some way. So his Cody's job is to woo this girl, and he gets a scholarship thanks to the CIA to this preparatory academy. Who his family, which we haven't mentioned his family, and they're a great cast of characters, but his family
they're fun, but you can clearly tell there was some Malcolm in the Middle influence there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like the little brother is absolutely Dewey, and the mom is
it's Lois. Yeah, it's nice Lois. It's nice Lois. Yeah. She's nice Lois. But yeah. So he goes to the school, and he's immediately out of place, of course, and he flubs up his first line, and we get. There's some fun school stuff, but the best thing about, I think, this school scene is the driving scene. Like I think it's so much fun. It's a great stunt scene. Like it still like holds up pretty good. I love that he like the teacher, even though he is very stereotypical, is again another thing from a James Bond movie that they stole. It's a very stereotypical performance, but I mean, at least it's an Asian actor, and it's not somebody that's not an Asian actor. That's things we've seen before. Yeah. So, but the scene is great. Like the driving back and forth, they're driving in reverse and trying to impress her, and then her being impressed. I always remembered this. Her being impressed, but then her friends coming over and go, "Oh my God, he almost killed you," and her going like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Like she changes her mind in the instant there, and he's like, "Oh shit, I got more work to do."
I was gonna say, and that actually is a brilliant little moment of satire of what high school actually can be like. If you surround yourself with friends who do have more of a hive mind mentality, and they will change your mind on something in a flash.
Mm-hmm.
Like the number of times that's happened in my high school experience, I could write a book.
Yep. Oh yeah. So Cody then basically has to he goes to the CIA, and he's like, I need my license, right? Like he needs his license, he needs a car, all this kind of stuff. And we get, holy crap, a 250, I think it's a 250 GT California. Like that's like it's one of the most beautiful Ferraris. I don't know how they got it for this movie. And it's like, you can very clearly tell that it's a small man driving that car, and definitely not Frankie Muniz, because the insurance, like I love this car because it again, James Bond. It's James Bond, right? Yeah, like it's perfect. It's so, and Ronica shows up in that in the red suit, in the red leather suit in the Ferrari. It's like perfect.
It's like, yeah, you know what? Listen, Angie Harmon, you're beautiful, but get out of the way. I want that car.
Yeah, so he shows up to the party, and he
oh, as I say, we actually skipped how he even got the invitation in the first place.
Oh, the invitation. My bad.
Yeah, because they had to do that thing where first he creeps her out because and with actually one of the most hilarious scenes in the movie where he's like, guys, I can't do all this crazy homework and talk to her and do my chores, and literally in like a glorious montage.
It's Soviet style montage with the music and everything, like this kind of like propagandist kind of like thing, right?
Yeah, like you have CIA agents all over just mowing the lawn, doing the laundry, cleaning the house so it's perfect, and it's like, what the hell? And then of course it closes out with right as the parents are coming home. Quick, everyone leave. And what was he supposedly playing the whole time? Warcraft 3.
Warcraft
okay,
3.
sure.
I love that shout out. I love all the stuff on his walls, like Amped. There's an Amped poster for Xbox. It's like, oh, that was my shit. I used to play that game all the time. I remember that game. That game was awesome. It's like everything on like Dragon Ball Z. There were Dragon Ball Z posters. Goku was up on his wall. I was like, oh man, this is totally like my room. My room now, not even my room back then. But so at the party, basically, Cody's job is also to spy on a meeting that's happening between the scientist, Hilary Duff's father, and
Dr. Connors, and then Dr.
Brinkman. Yeah, he's a doctor as well. And they go down this really cool. I love the kind of like the San Francisco style like escalator elevator that goes down. I always thought it was a sweet little feature that they had on there. And this is where we find out that the nanites have to be in ice, right? Like they need to be stayed in ice, otherwise they'll eat through basically anything except glass. Glass is the only thing they won't eat through. That's about it.
Boy, is that
convenient.
But yeah, and then like and you do have that sort of Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I was gonna. This is the part where it's like, oh yeah, this is made after the Brian De Palma Mission Impossible, so it has to have a callback to it. Like it's like any spy parody or like homage basically has that nowadays. That's one of like the Goldfinger ones, like we were talking about with the laser beam in between the legs. I'm surprised they did this and not that. Right, like to harken back to that, but that's one of the ones that's newer. That's really sunk into the consciousness. Like,
well, yeah, and I think for all the crap that Mission Impossible 1 and 2 get, they still did make a big impact, and obviously the franchise has only made more and more of an impact as it's gone on. So
I mean, I'll give some crap to number 2. I mean, I still like it, but I mean, number 1 I think is still great. Like, I mean, the thing is, Mission Impossible somehow became one of the few franchises to get better as it went along instead of worse as it went along. Like it's only getting better, and it blows my mind honestly every time it does it, because it's like, when are they going to slow down?
Yeah. When you make a franchise where people argue if your 4th, 5th, or 6th film are better and not your 1st or 2nd or 3rd, you got a good franchise on your hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So so Cody messes up because he fights with a bunch of bullies and knocks them in the pool and acts all cool and gives away his spyness to Arnold Vosloo.
Francois.
Mole. That's right. Mole. Mole. All I could think of is Austin Powers. Mole. That's all I could think of. So Cody basically messes up at this point, right? Like this is where Cody kind of Cody screws.
Well, and this is where they decided to go the buddy cop film where all right, I need your gun and your badge. All right, sir, but I did the right thing.
Yep.
Before eventually they go rogue and then they stop the bad guys. Which again, this is Lethal Weapon. This is
it's a formula.
The Vengeance. Yeah, exactly. It's a formula that works.
That's the thing. It's like I never have an issue with a formula because like you said, it works, right? Like the things there's a reason it works. It's just you have to make it you have to find the way to make the formula interesting, right? That's the biggest issue when you're not dealing with something brand new like that. But I think that the comedy that they're able to get in I think this comedy holds up a lot better, I think, than some of the James Bond comedy, and it's definitely not as late.
It holds up better than you'd think it would, because
especially for early 2000s.
Yeah, which was
could have been very cringy.
has not aged well. Some days I just want to regret that era of film ever happening. If I'm being perfectly honest with myself.
Yeah.
You know,
well, that's the thing. Like, and talk about this a little bit because, like, I think that we'll talk about maybe later, but we can talk about it now. The Rotten Tomatoes percentages. This one's at like 24%. I think is like what I saw.
I don't get it.
And
I
think
straight
it's.
up don't get it.
I don't understand. Maybe they just didn't understand that it was supposed to be fun. Like what were they going in? What was the expectation going into this movie? Because seeing it as.
I think what it comes down to for this particular case is that they wanted a film that was more strictly aimed at kids and not aimed at people who could be fans of James Bond, so on, Mission Impossible, so on and so forth. Like they thought this was just going to be a dumb kid spy film, but this wound up being a loving tribute to all the great stuff that's come before and carry over some of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when those expectations weren't met, people got upset, and you know, they didn't give it a good review. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it. There's no way it deserves 24%. I think it's fresh. I think it's good. I think it's like a good. We'll get to the end because the end.
I literally wouldn't give it anything above like a 60%.
Yeah,
but that's still.
But it's a
fresh.
Kids movie. Like that's the thing is also it's hard for like I think it's really hard for like critics to judge kids movies, especially if you like can't like if you can't really get into that mindset. If you don't think you can get into the mindset of like a kid, right? Because it's not made for you, right? Like it's like this, but this movie is made for everybody. Like I think they did a great job at putting pieces in for little kids and for older kids and for adults that have to take their kids to the movies, right? Like if they have to sit through this, they're going to have fun watching them poke fun at James Bond movies the whole time, right? They're going to laugh when their kids aren't laughing and the kids are going to laugh when the adults aren't laughing. And that's like what Disney used to be good at, subtle things with that kind of stuff. They were never.
They're still good.
Yeah, they're. I think they're a little more safe. I think they're a little more safe recently than not.
I think they're still good.
Yeah. But so Cody attempts to go rogue and save Hilary Duff, but she gets kidnapped, right, by Arnold Vosloo and.
Well, actually, like she comes to see him, surprisingly enough, and then they go out for ice cream, and you know it's a cute little scene in the diner, you know. But then of course, it's like all of a sudden a plate with a burger comes on. It's like eat your burger. And then there's Arnold Vosloo, and it's just like we actually have a really cool fight in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's a great fight. It's another great fight. Like I was like, oh wow, this fight is really good, and there's some fun fights in the ice fortress in the mountains later too. There's some good action scenes as we get there, but
you know, and one of the scenes that always stuck with me when I saw this in the theaters was just that visual of the close up of Arnold Vosloo's fist just coming into the camera like that and knocking Cody out. You're like, whoa, hello. And then and speaking of visual gags. So while I appreciate that literally the next shot is Cody in the van, I did skip this one for some reason. After the house cleaning scene, you know, he heads out to the van where everyone's parked in, and literally everyone's just scrunched in there like, hey, Cody, what's up?
Can
you call her, please?
Stick a hand out. One of them sticks like a hand out to hand him something and something.
No.
Trying to
Cascade Mountains.
Yeah, Cascade Mountain. Well, Veronica pins a pin on Cody, and she gives him a little keepsake, right? And she's like, "Okay, keep this. It was from my mentor and stuff like that." And Cody, being the super spy, thinks it's a tracker, and tosses it away. And later on, we learn that when Veronica shows up in the mountains on her little hover
helicopter.
What is it, jetpack type thing that they made? Like that's a real thing. I've seen that thing.
Nice.
She tells him no, it was just a pin. Like that's not the tracker. That was just a pin that it was 18 karat gold. It was a nice pin. I love that little in exchange between them, and they have this kind of antagonistic relationship because she doesn't seem to enjoy being partnered with a kid being his handler, because they don't use the term partner until the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's like Cop and a Half done right.
But so they go into the Cascade Mountains basically, and this is just like kind of your average everyday third act. I kind of feel everything goes to crap.
It's definitely paying homage to the Roger Moore era of Bond, where we're in the mountains, instead of skis we're on a snowboard, because of course that's what all the kids are into. And there's the bit with the guys chasing him on the snowmobiles, and he knocks one out. That's
a great scene. Yeah,
lights the other one on fire, and it's like, whoa, okay, now we're getting violent. Good. Kind of wish the guy died.
Yeah, but yeah. So one of the cool things is I remember skipping over a little bit, but when they're escaping. And Cody's trying to find a way to save them as he drives a snowmobile through the building that's wrecking down. Sparks fly everywhere. It looks real cool, real X Games shit. And he has to find a way to get the doors open. And he grabs ice cubes full of the nanites and throws them at the doors. And they start melting and eating the doors away. I was like, how come I never really. I don't know if I just never paid attention to it before or never noticed. I was like, that's fairly ingenious and fairly good, sacrificing himself.
I definitely don't remember that from the theater, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Like, and there were a couple other little pieces from that sequence. Like, I don't remember Ronica actually putting the little bombs all over the place. I don't remember them doing that.
There's a couple shots I think I remember, but yeah. Yeah, there's a couple shots of them. I think they're doing it as they walk along. They get walked along places and stuff like that. But yeah, the real important thing is that they get out. They all survive because this is a kids movie. So of course they're all going to survive.
Except for Ian McShane.
Yeah,
and,
that's
okay.
Right. I love his acting.
Movie, but I want to talk about what for me is still the cringiest shot in this film.
You don't like the VFX of that?
So, no. I like the effects of it. What still bugs me, this bugged me as a kid and it bugs me now, is the way that the camera shoots Hilary Duff just slowly walking up to Ian McShane with the ice cube in her hand.
Yes.
To shove it in his mouth. And I'm like, why are we shooting this like a Michael Bay film?
Yeah.
This looks like a Megan Fox shot in a Michael Bay film. Can we not do that? Like,
Fair.
She was not 18 at the time.
Well, and
Stop trying to sexually sell this thing.
Wasn't she wearing a skirt the whole time too? I think she was wearing a skirt the whole time too. Like I was like looking back at it now, it's like yeah, I don't know if that's completely necessary. Like pants would have been nice. Pants would have been nice.
I mean, again, I like this movie, and
I'm not even a dad.
There are things that I can bitch about, and this is absolutely one of them. It didn't work for me as a kid. It doesn't work now, even though I love how the villain dies.
I was gonna say,
it's a great death for him.
I thought the effects were kind of like sweet. Like I don't remember it being like. Yeah. It reminds me of Last Crusade.
Yes.
Like it was so it's on that kind of like mind blowing kind of like as a kid level. Like if you see that happen, you're like, oh shit. Don't drink out of the wrong cup. Like, don't do that shit. So Cody, they get out. They're safe, and Cody has one kind of final request. He wants one more thing from the CIA, and what is that? It's for his girlfriend who cannot drive at all to have a driver's license. And we get like one of the scariest looking scenes because like it looks like that was one of the few scenes they actually they let Hilary Duff drive that car on that road doing that stunt because they pull out from the car to do it, and it's like whoa. they side swipe really close on there. I was like, whew.
Cody, listen. Your country is proud of you. You did a great service for us. Thank you. But next time, don't. Just don't. Just freaking don't. Okay? Thanks, bud.
Yeah. So, so we did just talk about it a little bit, but since then we got to the end of Cody here, and we'll wrap it up here. Cody Banks. fresh, right? It's good. It's a good movie. It doesn't deserve the rap that it got, and I think it's a great homage to. It's not a parody. It makes fun of, but it is more homage than anything to spy movies.
It's a great homage, and it's a great time capsule film.
Yes,
I feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the reason that it does get its bum rap is because it is lumped in with a lot of those other kids movies from that era, like, you know, your Clock Stoppers, your Spy Kids 3D,
oh shit, Clock Stoppers.
You know, your Alex Rider.
Oh wow,
you know, those films that didn't know what they were like. They knew what they were doing well enough, I guess, but they
didn't have a vision.
Were only entertaining for kids, and they weren't entertaining for adults.
Yeah.
Agent Cody Banks, I will defend the first one. I will defend as a film that does entertain adults and kids because it does have a lot of heart, but it does have some really good jokes that do still work for the most part.
Yes.
You know, again, not every line in this thing is perfect, but I do think it absolutely gets way too much crap. And you know, I don't want to necessarily speak for the guy, but from the conversation that I did have with Frankie when we hung out was he loves talking to fans of the film, and he loves reminiscing about it because it was one of his favorite projects.
Wow, that's good.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. And it looks like they had fun. Like that's the thing. It also looked like it was a fun time to make that movie. So that's always a bonus, especially when you have to work with young actors and stuff like that. So Chris, next week I have a pair of movies here. We're gonna be talking to Chris Ingle with them, but I figured I'd give a little tease here. We are going to do some sports movies. Some two that I've seen one of them a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure I haven't seen the other one. Major League. We're gonna team up Major League with The Replacements, and we're gonna tackle two sports movies and see how they stack up. I saw Major League is the one that I watched as a young child, was one of my dad's favorites. So I had the weird memories that when you watch a movie, they like flash by, right? Like you're like, oh Jesus, I remember this, like out of nowhere. Like it's like, oh wow, I definitely watched this movie at some point. I had that with Mulholland Drive of all things.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wait a second, this cowboy scene in the corral is extremely familiar, but I can't exactly place it. I was too young to watch this movie, definitely, but I definitely watched it, but I was too young to watch it.
Okay. So that's your movie, because my movie I watched way too young was A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, so. That's a good one too. Well,
I can never hear Singing in the Rain again.
Oh, geez. I mean, my movie kind of viewing was kind of screwed. I used to want to watch the Puppy movie. The Puppy movie in my house was Cujo. That's what I would ask to watch. So if that gives a little insight into into me for you guys, like there you go. Chris, where can people find you on the internet and or wherever they want?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Doman. So you guys might see some musical instruments behind me because I'm currently in pre-production on my first album. So hope to have it done before the end of the year. And if you like metal, you're gonna like it.
Oh, sweet, awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear about that. We'll pump that out when it gets closer, and we'll help you out there. And you can find me everywhere, Kyle Gerbrandt, everywhere. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want, comment. If you guys don't tell us what you want to see, then we're just going to keep picking movies that we want to do. So that's the way it works. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. Remember, wash your hands, wear a mask. See you later.
Take care.